Yay!
Hey, everybody.
It's Friday. Thank you, dog. It's Friday, everybody.
Happy TDIF, everybody.
Yay! And we've got little Hank here to
We
celebrate.
got a little helper Hank.
Aw, so sweet, so cute. We love our Friday get-togethers. Thanks so much for being with us today. If you're watching live, please let us know. Say hi. We'd love to say hi back. If you're watching on the replay, let us know too. We know most people are kind of out and about and usually catch us on the replay. So hello there. Thanks for watching. We are the co-founders of Hound Hugger DIY. So we love our little hounds, all kinds of doggies, and we love DIY. We love making things by hand. And so today when we get together on Fridays, that's what we do. We just love to do really fun, inexpensive, budget-friendly, usually Dollar Tree DIYs, and make something magical happen. Make a little something fun. And
a lot of times it'll be, if you're like us, you have kind of a craft stash as well. So a lot of times it'll be things that you can kind of shop your own craft stash and find things to put this together. This one happens to be one that's definitely like that. So
exactly. So I'm Patty. I'm here with Hillary, and we saw our little Hank. We've got hounds everywhere, dogs everywhere. So you might see one of ours. That's the fun part about watching us live, because you never know what's going to happen with the pups.
If you don't see them, you'll probably hear them at the very least.
Exactly. And if you can't tell, we're all about the upcoming holiday, 4th of July. We're getting ready for celebrating America's birthday. Actually, this craft today is kind of like a general Americana theme. You could keep this up year round. I love this little idea.
For sure.
And we found this with Amanda at, what is it? Lovecraft Decor or something like that. I can't rember. It's in the,
and we do have it linked in the description. So we have a link to her.
Let me just check real quick. Because it's totally, she's at, Love Crafted Decor. So by all means, please check her out. She's got some really fun craft ideas. One of which we're going to do today. And it's really just getting a scrap piece of wood, or Dollar Tree has little planks. Either they have little shelf kits that you could use this for. Sometimes your Dollar Tree might not have the actual plain planks in their craft supply, but they do have those little shelf units that you can use. So just a scrap piece of
or
wood.
Even like their signs and things like that. You're kind of looking, you could find something
that would
like
be cute. That's
I have a couple here from Walmart that I'm going to be using. So there's this little square guy.
Yeah.
And there's also
that's a nice one too. That one's pretty. Yeah. So you can do, again, any size, whatever you've got. The one I'm going to be doing is a little more rectangular in size, and the instructions in our tutorial kind of talk about the rectangular version, but take our ideas and just run with it. Like use your inspiration, dig through your craft stash, and just have some fun. I just have a scrap piece of lumber, little board around the house that I'm going to use, which will be fun. And then you're also going to need a mason jar lid. Excuse me, a lid from the mason jar, but you're just going to need the little metal ring around it. And any size will work, right, Hillary?
So and if I were doing this larger board here, I would be using, here's a wide mouth ring one. Patty has the standard one. So I would do kind of two of them with a standard
that's a cute idea.
And a large mouth. Just you can kind of vary up the sizes, do whatever you want. But for our craft today that I'm putting on my little board, I'm using the standard size.
The little ring. Yeah. We're going to make fabric flowers. So some red, white, and blue fabric flowers in honor of the 4th of July, or just Patriotic Americana.
And the other thing that's cool about this is you could use this for any time of year too. So you could do fall versions of these flowers, or if you wanted just kind of like sunflower looking flowers, you could do yellow fabrics with black inners, like you could do this craft in whatever way you want to. Shop your stash, use up those scraps, those little bits of scraps that you can't bear to let go of, but you don't quite have enough to do something else. All you need is little strips for this. So you probably have enough.
Exactly. And I was digging through my craft stash to find, we have some really cute doggy themed fabrics in our craft stash, because of course dogs are a part of our hearts. I love that one too. I love that. We used that last week. This one I love with the little doggy bones on it. Super adorable. Cute. And I've got it in white as well. But as I was digging through my fabric stash, I was looking at like those fall colors and all those different, like the pinks for springs and the, the mustards for fall and stuff like that. This project would be, you could make a flower in any color. Yep. So anyway, we're going to do little red, white, and blue ones, do some Patriotic Americana. So if you're using the smaller kind of standard sized ring, you're going to need to cut 1-inch strips that are about 8. I didn't measure, but about 8 inches long, 7 or 8 inches long. And you're going to need about 25 or so to fit around the smaller kind of standard size ring. But if you have the larger mason jar, the wide mouth one, just cut 30 to 35, like just cut a few more. But 1-inch strips is what you're going to need. And then basically we're going to I'll just show you this once, and then we can show you, we've got another one that's almost done. You're just going to tie a single knot. And then the knot is going to you're going to want to have the knot a little bit closer to the top of the ring. It doesn't have to be perfect all the way around, but that will give you a tighter knot because there's a smaller space there. And you can adjust the direction of the ends. Yeah, of the ends. And then you're just going to do that single knot all the way around. And so I'm going to call the inside of the ring the back side, and I'm going to call the other side of the ring the top. So we'll talk about that later, but just fill your ring with these knotted fabric strips. And you can use, Hillary's got ribbons too that she's using, which I thought was a really clever idea.
So yeah, you could totally, I've got just some Dollar Tree ribbon that I'm going to intersperse here with my fabric that I've already popped on.
Nothing better than crafting with a pup in your lap.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. He's definitely crying about, we have like bits and bobs of toys, and I've already taken them down for him, but he's convinced that there's more over there.
If nothing else, he's getting some loving from mom today. That's great. But work your way around. You can use all one fabric if you want. If you want to intersperse it with a couple of different ribbons or fabrics, just to add additional pops of color, you can do that as well. And then I'm just going to kind of play with the spacing on mine. And so I've got like this little bone one here. That's the same kind of bone fabric as before, but it's in a white color. But I've interspersed. I didn't have that much of that left. So I just kind of tucked it in every once in a while. So I went all the way around.
And you don't have to worry about like the lengths because we'll trim these up afterwards. Yep. So
yeah, exactly.
If you have some that are short and some that are long, like don't worry, that'll be fine.
Yeah. The idea is to have longer than you need because this is a wide, it's kind of an unusual shape to tie a knot around. And so you do need kind of that extra length so that you can actually make that knot easily. We're going to cut these a lot shorter, but if you started with a short piece of fabric, it would be a little tricky to try and make that knot. So make it however long you want. 7 to 8 inches is kind of what I'm going with. And then we'll trim it back later. So cute. And then you can kind of fluff it out, make it look pretty.
This is super simple. Like this would be a fun one. Have the kids help with this or a craft party. You just have a bunch of ribbons and fabrics and, everybody can kind of make their own.
This would be so cute. This would be a fun one to make for a craft party as well. You can get all your scrap fabrics or have everybody bring their own kind of leftover fabrics. That would be great because then you even have more colors and choices to choose from. And then you could even just do like a rainbow of colors. You could just mix and match and do all kinds of things. Or obviously we're doing kind of coordinating fabrics and ribbons and colors. But yeah, that's the fun part. You can really customize this in any way you like. So pretty cool. So easy. I could see kiddos making this for their grandma, you know,
Yep.
like wouldn't this be a cute little present for grandma? Super cute.
And all like it's just a single knot. Like you couldn't get much easier.
Yeah. And it'll shift around. You don't have to worry about gluing it in place. Once you start adding more and more to the ring, they pretty much stay in place, which is nice.
And you can play around with like making, once you get to the point of trimming and stuff like that, then you can play around with trying to get the right sides of the fabric out and all that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. And I like seeing some of the back sides too. Just it adds a little more rustic character. But yeah, you want to see most of the front sides of the fabric. Or some of those little accent fabrics or ribbons that you've added. Like you've got a really cute check ribbon that I love. Cute. Okay, we got a floppy flower. Extra floppy. It's like hair. It's my hair in the morning. My hair. It's a bad hair day flower right now. It's kind of cute. Actually, it reminds me of a little firework in the red, white, and blue.
We've got.
Yay!
Very fun.
That is so cute. I love that. I love that. All right. So then the next thing we're going to do is take our flower and bring it over to, I guess we can trim it up now. We'll bring it over to the wood and kind of figure out how much you want to trim off of that. You basically don't, it's like if I just put this up on my board, most of the board is hidden.
Yep.
So we want to really trim it down.
And I'm using just this little tiny square. So for me, I'm going to be trimming quite a bit.
Yeah. And if you don't know how much to trim, just start with a little bit and then work your way around again and again until you trim off the length that you like. It's easier to go back and get a little more than you can't put it back. You can't add it back in place. These are so cute. And this is for crafting newbies. Don't be afraid. This is so easy, so fun. You really can't make any mistakes, which is so nice. So even just giving it a try, you're winning.
And it's like, it's a quick and easy win too, because just tying those knots, bringing it all together. We have a couple more little embellishments and things that we'll add in that really like tie it together at the end. Yeah.
But if you're new to crafting, you know, this is no sewing. There's nothing really hard to worry about measuring or fitting in place. This is super easy. This is something you could do in front of the TV, in fact. Really easy. Or definitely this part for sure. We are going to break out the glue gun or some fabric glue here in a minute, but attach it to our board. These are so cute. So before Joann's closed, I had to go and get some more doggy fabrics. They had some really cute ones.
Yeah, they had the best selection for
dog
themed fabrics.
Yeah.
That'll be a sad one to lose for sure.
Well, I think their doors close like here in a day or two.
Yeah.
So
I've been seeing, so in my social media feed, I've been seeing, you know, people going and getting like some of the carts or some of the, you know, like some of the actual pieces from the store. So
yeah.
I'm like, oh no,
the display
really
unit kind of thing.
Exactly. Pallet jacks and stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame. Well, we'll see what fills its place.
Yep.
Because there are too many crafters to not want to have a place to shop for fabric and things. All right. little bit more. And if you want, so I'm just doing a blunt cut on the ends. If you want to do little pointed cuts to make it look a little more like petals, little pointed petals, you can do that. So it's fun. You can do a whole different effect just by how you're trimming and the length that you have.
And if you were doing more than one flower, like on the bigger board that I showed earlier, you could cut them differently too. That would be kind of fun, just to kind of vary up the textures.
Yeah, one could look like a carnation, the other one could look like a daisy, or just by how you're trimming them. It would be fun to see 2 or 3 flowers together. I think make a little garden, a little fabric garden. So cute. The other nice thing is I didn't iron my fabric. If it has wrinkles in it, nobody's going to see in the final result. So that's a nice thing. You don't have to worry about messing with that extra step.
You can also, so I cut these but with working on them and things like that, you do get frays and stuff, and that just adds to the texture. So you don't need to worry about that either.
We kind of want that, right? We want this to look rustic for sure. All right. I feel like I've got a good handle on it. And I'm just going to play around with a couple of my extra accent color things. All right. Cute. So cute. Okay. Once you're happy with how this looks, we're going to actually flip it over. So remember, the back side is the bottom of the lid, the jar lid. So it's this inside of the lid. So we're going to flip it over to the back side, and then we're going to take a piece of burlap that kind of coordinates. You could use yellow, center of flowers, or yellow, but I'm going to use a white to match with my red, white, and blue kind of theme that I'm going on here. But you could do orange or yellow or really any color. If you black for sunflower would be cute. Yep. And we're just going to cut a piece that's big enough to cover that center opening. And then I'm going to cut it in a circle shape. And I'm just eyeing it, really. But you could take a pencil and kind of mark the circle wherever you like. I'm just making a big circle first, and then I'm going to trim it down as needed. So I know my circle is going to be way too big, but to begin with. And then the idea is when you have it turned over, you're going to want it big enough to puff out on the other side. So it does need to be a little oversized to begin with, because we want to kind of make this little dome shape on the top. So this might look huge for the center of my ring, but once I start kind of pushing it in and creating that dome, see how it kind of fits in place. So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to add some glue on the inside, and we're going to glue our little burlap.
This is where it really comes to life, I feel like, too.
It's so cute. And you could use fabric glue. I'm using hot glue.
You do want to be careful just with that burlap.
Yes.
Because there's big holes in it. So watch your fingers.
Yeah. And be sure to push it in before the hot glue sets so that you get that dome shape. And the fabric's pretty forgiving. It'll move a little bit for you, which is nice. So I'm just pushing up on my little dome here. So cute. I love this. What a fun idea.
And you could also do one of your coordinating fabrics. So like for mine, I just have a few of the gingham. You could do gingham here in the center if you wanted to too.
Yeah, I love that idea. Okay, so I'm going to, because the next step is to glue this down, and I have some of this is really sticking up out of the back. I'm going to trim around the back side of that burlap and cut it so that it's at least going to glue flat when I glue it down. All right. So trimmed it around a little bit better so that when I glue it down, it's going to lay flat. Oh, this is so cute. I love this. What a fun idea. All right. I'm getting all kinds of little
that's
scary things from my fabrics, but that's
the little
good.
trimmings fly everywhere.
But we want it to be rustic and fun. Okay, so now the next step. So here's the front. The next step of our flower. Oh my gosh, these are so cute. These are so cute. The next step is going to, we're going to put some glue around here, and then we're going to glue it towards the top of our, or you're going to do it in the center or wherever you like. But if you have a rectangle, we're going to glue it a little bit towards the top of our board.
And this is
we still want to see some of the wood behind it.
If you were using your larger one, you can see you would have kind of a big flower, and then your little smaller flower, so it would really fill out the board.
Yeah, you could even do 3 and have the third one almost coming off the top. You know, like you could really do some fun stuff. All right. Okay, I gotta now's the time to make my move here.
This is kind of once you put that glue on the back,
yes,
you're committed. So.
Exactly. So all right.
And you do want a pretty good amount of glue. Like it's not heavy or anything, but it is kind of lumpy just with all the knots and fabric and stuff. So
yep. Okay, we're gonna push down. I'm gonna do last minute zhuzhing here. Some of my fabrics. Oh, this is turning out so cute. So cute. Love it. All right. Okay, so then, sorry, I could just play with these little ends all day. Just to get
I know the feeling.
So, I know.
You get kind of drawn
lost. You get lost in it. Okay, we can tweak it and trim it and all the things. I might trim a little bit more here. Okay. All right. So we've got our flower on our board, and then the next step is to get a strip of rope, a strand of rope. You want it longer than your board, or longer than from the flower to the end of the board. We want it too long to begin with, because we can always trim it off. And we're going to take one end and we're going to glue it underneath the petals, under the petals at the top. And I would glue like the first inch and a half, or 2 inches down to secure it in place. And then we're going to, as we're going to glue it, we're going to kind of twist it a little in the next step. But before we glue the rest of this down, we're going to add some leaves. So just have this the first inch or two under the fabric petals glued down first. And
because mine is so much shorter, mine probably will be just sort of straight down.
Yep.
But
yeah,
if you have a little bit more room to play with, I love the idea of giving it a little bit of that, a little bit of a curve to it.
Little whimsy, to it. All right. So I've got an inch or so, inch and a half, 2 inches glued down, depending on the size of your board and all that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take just some random leaves that you might have on some of your other artificial flowers. We just want the leaves. And we're going to glue these down underneath the rope, our flower stem, wherever you'd like them to be. We're going to glue these down. And then we'll glue the rope on top of them. All right. So I've got my leaves glued down here, and then I'm going to glue my rope on top. But now it's starting to look like a real flower.
I'm just pulling off my little plastic piece that was on my leaves.
Okay. So I put the leaves down, glued the stem on top. The rest of the stem is still loosey-goosey. And then I'm going to trim my stem to the length of the board. So I'm going to trim that rope so that it's no longer than the end of the board. So I won't need any extra, but I'm not going to glue the bottom of my flower stem yet. I want to leave that open for right now. So cute. And then Hillary, are you going to do the next step, or should I just go on?
Nope, you can go ahead and go on.
Okay.
Mine won't have that part.
You've got a shorter board. So basically the next thing we're going to do is create a little flower pot, which I think this is so cute. This was such a clever idea from Amanda. All right. Who we got the inspiration from. So just, again, take another piece of burlap. We're going to cut a strip of that. That's about, I don't know, maybe 2 inches long. And you could use anything. You could use, actually, I'm using a red burlap. You could use a brown, natural burlap color if you wanted to, or orange if you want to make it look like a terracotta pot, flower pot. So we've got a little strip of this burlap, and I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to basically make a little tube. I'm just going to make a little round tube. Just going to add a little glue, not a lot, because it's kind of porous to begin with, but it's also easy to stick together. Okay, so I've got my strip of burlap. I've made a little tube out of it, and then I'm going to glue the bottom. So I've glued the side. Now I'm going to glue the bottom, and we're making a little flower pot. All right. Amanda did hers a little differently. I think this might be a little easier to do. All right. So now we have our little, isn't this so cute? We have a cute little flower pot.
Yes. A little bag for your
little
flower.
bag.
It was
yes.
Adorable.
Exactly. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue the back of this flower pot to our board, but we're going to tuck that little stem inside. So the stem will be inside our little bag as we glue it down. And this actually, now that I see it, looks a little too tall. So I'm going to trim this down a little bit more. I always prefer to make it too tall than too short, right? You can always trim it. And then one of the fun things I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull off the top strip of burlap, the string, just to give it even a more rustic look. So it's not a finished top. The bottom is a little more finished. The top is a little more rustic. Just adds that little extra layer of homespun Americana, I think, to it. Okay, now I'm going to glue my little flower basket or flower pot. And I'm just gluing the backside. And really, it doesn't take a whole lot of glue.
I'm using a little bit of my beacon here just to glue some of the petals where I want them. If they're not sitting where you want.
That's a good idea.
Kind kind of tack a couple of them down.
I'm cutting my rope stem a little bit. It's a little too long still. So I'm going to tuck my little stem into my pot. And you can glue this in place. Okay, so now it's in my little pot. It's got a nice little wavy stem on it.
It reminds me of little showers a little bit.
Oh yeah, right. That giant flower in a tiny little pot. Yep. That's so funny. I haven't thought of that movie in a long time. All right, the final little piece de resistance is to add a little floral moss into our flower pot. This is so cute. Just going to take a little greenery here. This stuff is super messy. Let's see if I can do this without making a total mess. All right, just a little handful. And I'm going to plop it into my little flower basket here. Oh, how cute, Hillary. That's adorable. That's so
this one
cute.
Obviously using as like a little shelf setter, you know, something. The base that I have is so nice and thick and wide that it's easy to kind of put it wherever you want. So
yeah, love that. All right, just adjusting the moss here. You don't have to glue the moss in. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and especially like once you show yours, the whole idea here is really like just take the hint of the idea and run with it. Like you can see our projects come out totally different. We're using different fabrics. We're kind of doing a different style, a different backing, but you can make these however you want and make it work for you. So
I love this. These are so cute. So now you can see I've got the little floral moss in my little basket. It looks so cute. I might trim down this a little bit more, but you can always go back and trim. I love that they kind of look like fireworks too.
Yep.
In the red, white, and blue colors. I didn't, you know, you don't really think about that, but these would be so pretty as a sunflower for fall or spring colors for the spring. Really so customizable. I just love these. They turn out so nice. And then if you want to hang them, you can just add a little jute twine, a little string, glue it to the back. These are so lightweight, easy to hang. But yeah, they make fun shelf sitters as well. So
these are so cute. It's so fun. Like, and it takes hardly any time, you know, it's just that little ring. So, and you can make as many of them, like use a bigger backing and you can put a whole little garden on there.
Or like you said, with the Dollar Tree, the larger signs, you could just do the flower heads and then just do
that
the
would
whole
be adorable.
All the way across with all kinds of different flowers would be so pretty.
They have welcome signs and you could do the flower just for the so you leave it the welcome and put your like big flower, like you might need to use the wide one, and then you have this adorable kind of fireworks flower 4th of July.
So that would be so really fun. Cute. Yeah, might have to run back to Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby or wherever to get those. All right, thank you so much, everybody. We hope we've inspired you to get out there this weekend, have a little fun, dig through your craft stash, go to Dollar Tree and get the rope. They do have some really cute fabrics, some burlap, mason jars. They have mason jars. You can use the lids for that. And then they do sometimes have some scrap pieces of craft wood that you can use as well, or just dig through your craft stash and come up with whatever you can find to make these little beauties. These are so rustic, so charming. I love that they look, you know, like something you'd see in a craft market, you know, just handmade, full of love and celebrating America's birthday. So really fun. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great weekend. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.